The next Democratic primary is once again a caucus. It is in Nevada on February 22nd, and I wish I had better news, but sadly, it does look like the Nevada Democratic caucus is going to be another embarrassingly convoluted mess, kind of building on the mess of the Iowa caucus on February 3rd. The big news after Iowa and the complete failure of the app that Iowa was using to communicate the results from different parts of the state. Nevada decided they are not going to use the same app that imploded in Iowa. They had initially planned to use that app. They're changing their plans. And this made a lot of people think it's definitely going to go more smoothly in Nevada than it did in Iowa. And in some ways, it still might. But there are more and more reasons to be concerned about what's going to happen in Nevada. One issue is, okay, well, they're abandoning the app that didn't work well in Iowa, but what are they replacing it with? You've got to replace it with something. There is not a super clear answer right now. According to the Associated Press, Nevada Democrats told precinct leaders, you will be getting an iPad the day of the caucuses. Seth Morrison is a site leader who's going to oversee a bunch of different precincts in the Las Vegas area. And Seth said he was told he would be trained on the iPad when he picks it up a few days before the caucuses. And then on the day of the caucuses, he will have to teach the precinct leaders how to use these iPads that they're going to be getting. That doesn't sound great to me. I don't know about you, but that's not inspiring huge levels of confidence. Number two, in Nevada, they will be reporting three sets of numbers for the first time, similar to in Iowa. There's going to be the initial vote totals from the first sort of round. Then there's the realignment based on candidates that don't meet the 15% viability threshold have to realign to other candidates. And then you have a final vote total. And then you have to report the final delegate number. All of these steps add opportunities for human error and chaos and confusion. And we've talked about more generally, what about getting rid of the caucus system altogether? But then the real factor is that Nevada, on top of all of the caucus craziness, has early voting, which Iowa did not have. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, in a primary, you just send in who you're voting for early. That's no big deal. It gets counted on the day of the election. How on earth do you do early voting in a caucus? And the way it works, interestingly enough, is early voters who want to participate in the caucus have to use a ranked choice ballot. Since you won't be there to see whether your top choice meets the 15% viability threshold, and if they don't, you get realigned to some other candidate. You have to, in advance, order the candidates in terms of preference. So this is another element that could wreak just absolute and total havoc at the local precinct level in Nevada when tallying up the votes, because it all has to be done during that few-hour period that the caucus is taking place. And then on top of this, to add just like an almost cartoonish element to everything, instead of, in Iowa, they would do the coin flips for tiebreakers. Nevada, and it sort of is fitting because of Las Vegas, Nevada is going to do a card game. There will be a high card draw. You draw a card, and whoever gets the high card, that candidate gets the tiebreak, which is just absolutely crazy. Any system that involves coin flips or drawing cards to decide who wins, even at the micro delegate level, it's a bad system. The one simplifying element in Nevada is that there are only delegates. There aren't delegates and state delegate equivalents like in Iowa. That's a good thing. So growing concern from Nevada. Democrats should be concerned given what we are learning there. Nevada has 36 delegates up for grabs. This makes it roughly the size of Iowa. Iowa had 41 delegates. New Hampshire had 24 delegates. And then on top of everything, as of right now, we don't really have good recent polling from Nevada. The latest poll is from January 11. That makes it difficult to even have some kind of a base number to compare vote totals to, which can help to sniff out problems. If you have a bunch of recent polls and a candidate is polling 10 and then they get 40, then that raises a red flag and you've got to figure out whether those results are accurate. Hopefully by February 22nd, which is the day of the Nevada caucuses, there will be more recent polling. One other kind of messy thing in Nevada, which is even more acute than in Iowa, In Iowa, where you vote sort of matters. And as we saw, Pete Buttigieg got the largest number of delegates despite not getting the largest number of votes. In Nevada, this is even more pronounced. Nevada's total population is just a hair over 3 million people. Las Vegas has about 20% of that population, 650,000. Reno has another 250,000. So between Las Vegas and Reno, you have about 30% of the total population of the state in just those two cities. Because of that urban-rural divide in Nevada, you can win big in urban centers and lose on delegates. And you can have all of these wacky scenarios. So if you look at 2008, for example, in 2008 in the Nevada caucus, Barack Obama came away with 13 delegates and Hillary got 12. But Obama lost the popular vote totals by about 6 percentage points, still got more delegates than Hillary. This is more pronounced than it was in Iowa this year. In 2016, there was also a pretty unbalanced delegate total relative to the popular vote. In 2016, Hillary won the popular vote by just 5 percentage points, but she got 57% of the delegates, a much larger share. And of course, this in part is because of those viability thresholds that we talked about earlier today. In any caucus, this can happen. In Nevada, that urban-rural divide can make it even more acute. So let's hope for the best. Ideally, they're preparing for the worst. The silver lining here is that, and this is a weird silver lining, it's another very small number of delegates on Super Tuesday, March 3rd. All of these primaries, first of all, it's all primaries from what I recall. And it is a much larger number of delegates, a lot of potentially difference-making primaries on March 3rd. So if there's any silver lining about Nevada, it's that it's not that many delegates. And if it gets royally screwed up, it's unlikely to drastically affect the total delegate counts. I know that it's an extremely low bar to be setting, but it is what it is. Almost all American journalism is controlled by a few massive corporations, and NewsVoice is a one-of-a-kind mobile app that tracks the bias and corporate interests that infuse the news stories we consume every day, and it's totally free to use. It's a great tool to have on your phone. NewsVoice is not funded by advertisers or corporate investors. The platform is supported by contributions from users like you. The NewsVoice app will have some really excellent new features soon, specifically for the 2020 election, but they're wanting to expand their team of independent journalists. In order to keep everything running, they're offering special rewards to anyone who wants to give to their new Kickstarter campaign, which can be found at newsvoice.com/kick. Giving a contribution will come with rewards like insider access to group chats with NewsVoice staff members, as well as access to a variety of special features. Go see what NewsVoice is all about.